Hello, welcome to Steve McDonald's Arts and Crafts, and today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be talking about UV resin. A lot of people have said to me, how do I use UV resin? What is it used for? Is it any good? Now, I don't use a lot of UV resin, although I do always have it in my studio, and I use it primarily for gluing, but I do make a few things out of it. Now, with UV resin, obviously what you do need is you need a UV light for it to cure. And so you have you have an unlimited working time on it, as long as you don't have any UV light in your room, sunlight and things like that. Now, here in the UK at the moment, it's very unusual to see the sun, so I would need to use UV torches. Now, I have three at the moment. I have this one, which is quite a powerful one. I have this one, which is a mediocre one. And I have this little nail torch that plugs into a USB socket. I've also got this UV resin. There's loads of UV resins on the market. And one of the things that you need to check is, if the UV resin says it needs a particular wavelength cure, then make sure you've got a torch or whatever that needs that wavelength. Now, the one I use just says that you need a low UV wattage. So that's fairly fine. Now, if you're drying it outside in the sun, you don't have to worry about that, because the sun is actually all the UV wavelengths that you need. The benefit of as well of drying things out in the sun is I find that you get a much better, harder cure with it. And generally, if it is sunny and I've used UV resin, I've cured things with a torch, I do usually stick them outside if it's a sunny day, and I find it cures really, really well. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. I do lots of videos on resin and different bits and pieces and tips and tricks and experiments. So hit that subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss out on my future videos. And also, I will provide links to everything that I used today in the description below. I'll provide my affiliate links because there are also lots and lots of different UV resins, and some can be quite expensive, and actually some can be fairly reasonably priced. There are definitely pros and cons. UV resin cures really quickly, there's no mixing, and you get a long working time. It's also really good for small projects. The cons are, it is usually considerably more expensive. It can only be used in thin layers, and you need a UV lamp to cure. You must also wear the same protective equipment as if you were using normal epoxy resin as well. Now, I've used some mica powder here that I've mixed up with my UV resin, and now I'm also going to put some dried flowers and see how that works. Normally it works really fine, but again, they do need to be dried. Fresh flowers in UV resin will over time rot and go brown and just not look very nice. And you just put a little bit of the UV resin in, then pop your flowers in, or petals like I'm doing now, and then you just shine your UV torch onto it. Now, it does take probably about a minute to 2 minutes to get it to be firm, and then I would suggest you put it under a UV lamp or put it out into the direct sunlight to cure it up solidly. That way you won't get any stickiness on the actual resin cured at the end. I find that when I'm mixing things like a lot of glitter or mica powder in here, as long as it's not too thick, to be honest, it cures up just as well as if you're using the clear UV resin. There isn't really any problems, and I do like to mix stuff in with my UV resin. Check out the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description if you like what you've seen and you'd like to support my channel, or alternatively, check out the join button. Here are my members coming up now. Thank you to all my members. It's really appreciated. Everything that you do allows me to keep continuing and making projects and doing experiments for this channel. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. So now what we're going to be looking at is backing with a UV resin, because sometimes you want a different color back. And again, I'm just using a mica powder here, pouring it on as I would normally. And again, don't forget, you do have to work in thin layers. Maximum, I would say, would be about 4 millimeters. These little pendant molds are about 2.5, 3 millimeters. So you just pour it on, and then again, as you would when you're curing it, you pop any bubbles using a long neck lighter. Don't use a torch, don't damage your mold, and then you just go over and cure it using your UV torch. And it is quite a thin layer, so this should cure quite quickly. So what I'm looking at now is demolding it, and you'll be able to see what it looks like demolded. It does dry or cure nice and clear. as you can see here. But what you might want to do is you might want to actually dome the back of it, because it does still shrink away the same as any normal resin when it's cured. And I use UV resin quite a lot for doming because it's a quick way of doming quite a lot of things and quite easily. And because it's quite a thick resin, it doesn't tend to seep over the edges, and also it does give a nice dome. So just pour it on as normal as you would here, and then shine your torch on it and cure it up. Again, this isn't going to take too long to cure because it is actually quite a thin layer, as you'll see in a second. And I'm not sure if you can see, but certain vapors do come off it when it's curing, and it does get warm. So please make sure you wear gloves and a mask, a 3-micron mask. I will link a video at the end of this one on health and safety for when you're using resin, and the same applies to when you're using UV resin. Safety is a must, as always. So there we go. That one's all finished now and doesn't need any more further work. What we're going to move on to now is just curing these ones up. I do like to shine it through the molds. Now, the molds are transparent. They're not completely clear, but UV resin does penetrate through them. And as you can see here, I've also coated a small leaf to show you that you can actually coat things as well with it. I sometimes use it if I've got a rough spot on something and I don't want to have to coat the whole thing, and I'll just go over with a little bit of UV resin. And this leaf here is nice and cured, and it gives it a nice shiny finish. There we go, looking nice and glossy there, which is nice. And I'm just giving these a final little going over again, just checking the backs, going all through the sides, and now they're ready to demold. And as you can see, it does take the mica powder really well. That is lovely and glittery. And the same for this one as well, just giving it a final little check. And there we go, that has come out. And we've now made 3 little pendants really, really quickly, or you could turn them into little bracelets or whatever you want to turn them in. And the other thing that I use UV resin for a lot is as a glue, or to suspend things into objects when I want to pour my normal epoxy resin on top of it. So this is how I use it as a glue and to suspend things. And this is for a project that I've got coming up and a video coming out soon. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on those videos. Now, all I'm going to do is just pour in about 3 ml of the UV resin into this. And I want to suspend this little person that I've got into this so that I can pour in some resin and some glitter. Now, I could do it all with UV resin, but that would take up a lot of UV resin, and I don't want to use that amount of money up. So I will put links to everything that I've used in the description below, so you can click on anything to check it out. I'm now curing it, and as you'll see, once I move the tweezers, that is now suspended in there. So I can pour my UV resin into that without worrying, without causing any problems, and without it falling over. It will stay perfectly in position. I hope this whistle stop tour has been useful with UV resin. It's not something I use all the time, but I do use it now and again for the reasons that I've shown in this video. I hope you found this video to be extremely useful. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button. Take care. Enjoy your resin. Bye.